Serena Vale had just married the love of her life, Jasper Rennic, in a ceremony that shimmered with elegance and promise. But 72 hours later, she would be gripping her phone with trembling hands, silently recording a scene so vile it would shatter her world. Her new husband, entangled in an act of betrayal with her own mother, Linnea Vale, Serena Voss, had always believed in fairy tales. Her life, from the outside, had the markings of a picture-perfect dream. Raised in an affluent suburb of Savannah Heights, she was her parents' only child and grew up surrounded by love, comfort, and privilege. Her mother, Linnea Voss, was a well-known socialite who had turned heads since her youth. Even in her mid-40s, Linnea maintained an image of flawless beauty and elegance that others envied. Serena adored her mother and often referred to her as her best friend. Their bond seemed unbreakable until Serena met Jasper Rennic. Jasper was unlike anyone Serena had ever dated. Confident, smooth-talking, and stylish, he owned a string of luxury car dealerships and had a reputation for winning people over with his charm. At 30, he carried himself with the maturity and sophistication of someone far beyond his years. He was polite, attentive, and lavished Serena with thoughtful gestures. He knew how to say the right thing at the right moment, and it wasn't long before Serena found herself falling deeply in love. Their relationship progressed quickly. Within a year, Jasper proposed during a private helicopter ride over the coast, placing a ring on Serena's finger that sparkled as brightly as her future seemed to. Friends and family cheered the engagement. Serena's father had passed years ago, and Linnea stood proudly at her daughter's side, offering guidance on wedding planning and smiling warmly whenever Jasper was near. She became closely involved in the preparations, often meeting with Jasper alone to sort out details and logistics when Serena was too overwhelmed to handle it all. Their wedding was a grand affair, held at an estate overlooking the bay, complete with floral arches, a champagne fountain, and a designer gown that shimmered under golden lights. Photos from the ceremony went viral locally. Serena and Jasper were hailed as the new golden couple of Savannah Heights. The happiness on Serena's face looked effortless, pure, but behind the smiles, something invisible had already begun to twist the foundation of their union. In the days following the wedding, Serena noticed small, odd moments. Jasper and Linnea shared inside jokes that she wasn't part of. He seemed unusually comfortable in her mother's home, more than any son-in-law should be. Once, Serena walked in on the two of them laughing in the kitchen, their heads too close, their hands touching for a second longer than necessary. She dismissed it. They were just close, she told herself. It was probably a good thing that they got along so well. Not every woman was lucky enough to have her mother and husband in harmony. But then there were the late-night errands. Jasper would tell Serena he was going to the store, and then she'd receive a text from her mother a few minutes later saying Jasper had stopped by to help move furniture or set up her Wi-Fi. Once or twice seemed harmless, but it started happening more often. Too often. Serena chalked it up to coincidence and shrugged off the queasy feeling growing in her stomach. She didn't want to seem paranoid. After all, they had just started their new life together. They were still learning each other's rhythms, adjusting to married routines. Besides, she trusted her mother more than anyone. Linnea had raised her, comforted her through heartbreaks, and held her hand through major decisions. She would never do anything to hurt her, right? As the weeks passed, the dynamic became more unsettling. Jasper often seemed distracted around Serena, preoccupied. He would sometimes shower twice a day, once right after coming back from helping Linnea. Serena began paying attention to his phone habits. He kept it on him at all times now, even while brushing his teeth. He never used to be like that. Texts were cleared out regularly. His calendar looked empty, even though he was always busy. And then there were the gifts. Serena spotted a receipt for an expensive bracelet from an elite boutique, a store Jasper hadn't taken her to. A week later, she saw that exact bracelet on her mother's wrist during brunch. Linnea said it was a gift from an old friend. She didn't mention Jasper. Serena's mind raced. She didn't want to believe what she was beginning to suspect. It felt too sickening to be real. Surely she was being irrational, letting anxiety and jealousy cloud her judgment. But the coincidences were stacking up in a way she could no longer ignore. The trust she had in both of them was beginning to fracture. At night, she would lie awake next to Jasper, staring at the ceiling, feeling his breath against her shoulder, and wondering if it had all been a performance. Had she married a man who was playing her? Was her mother, her closest confidant, capable of such betrayal? The confusion and unease began to consume her. Serena, once so sure of her instincts, now doubted everything, and in her heart, a quiet plan began to form. She didn't want accusations. She didn't want to be told she was imagining things. She wanted truth. Cold, clear, undeniable truth. The kind of proof that left no room for denial. And once she had it, she knew exactly what she'd do with it. The tension in Serena's life had become unbearable. Each day with Jasper felt like walking a tightrope, careful not to trigger suspicion, all while her own mind screamed with doubt. She couldn't say anything. Yet. She wasn't ready for an argument or denials. She wanted facts, solid and unshakable. Her gut told her something was wrong, but her heart still hoped she was mistaken. Still, she couldn't ignore the mounting signs any longer. Jasper's behavior shifted subtly but significantly. He became more absent, both physically and emotionally. He came home later than usual and brushed off Serena's questions with vague answers about meetings or last-minute emergencies. When he was home, he was distracted, often glued to his phone, smiling at messages she never saw. He started avoiding intimacy, claiming stress or fatigue. But Serena noticed he always seemed energized after visiting her mother. Linnea, too, became more distant. She no longer dropped by unannounced like she used to. Her texts became shorter, less affectionate. She cancelled dinner plans and avoided conversations that once flowed easily. And whenever Serena asked how things were going, Linnea dodged the question with a laugh or changed the subject. The closeness they once shared was thinning, replaced by an awkward, growing silence. One day, Serena opened Jasper's briefcase to leave a document she'd printed for him. Tucked between two files was a luxury hotel invoice addressed to his name. 2 nights in a suite downtown, dated a week earlier. The charges included room service, spa treatments, and 2 glasses of wine. He had told her he was in Atlanta for a dealership conference that weekend. Her hands trembled as she scanned the paper. She didn't want to assume, but every clue pointed in one direction. She didn't confront him. Instead, she turned to her laptop and began researching hidden cameras. She bought 2, small, wireless, discreet. One she placed inside a decorative vase in the living room. The other she hid on a bookshelf in the guest bedroom. Both had night vision and motion detection. She made sure they were positioned to capture everything. That weekend, she told Jasper she'd been invited to a last-minute out-of-town seminar for her graphic design clients. She pretended to pack a bag, kissed him goodbye, and drove off to a nearby hotel under a fake name. From there, she monitored the cameras through her phone. She stayed up all night, eyes fixed on the tiny screen, waiting. Nothing happened the first night. The footage showed Jasper watching TV, eating leftovers, and eventually falling asleep on the couch. Serena began to feel foolish. Maybe she was wrong after all. Maybe her grief over losing the closeness she had with Linnea had made her see things that weren't there. But the second night, everything changed. Around 10:40 p.m., the camera in the living room pinged her phone. Motion detected. She watched as Linnea entered the house with a key. Her key, one Serena had given her for emergencies. Jasper emerged from the hallway, shirtless, with a glass of wine. They didn't talk. They didn't hesitate. They moved toward each other, like it was a routine, like it had happened dozens of times before. Serena froze. Her stomach twisted, her breath caught. She watched them on the screen, her husband and her mother, as they kissed and touched with a familiarity that left no doubt. The footage played out in haunting silence, only the low hum of the house's lighting audible in the background. It wasn't just betrayal. It was deliberate. It was shameless. She recorded the entire sequence. It was undeniable proof, cruel in its clarity. Her fingers hovered over the screen, wanting to close it, wanting to scream, wanting to break something. But instead, she sat still, her face expressionless. Numbness took over where emotion should have exploded. She didn't return home the next day. She stayed at the hotel for another 24 hours, playing the footage over and over. She felt every second of pain, disbelief, and rage. Her mother, her husband, on camera, in her home. She had given her heart to both, and they had carved it out while smiling to her face. The following day, Serena returned to the house as if nothing had happened. Jasper greeted her with a hug, asking how the seminar went. Linnea texted her a casual, "Hope it was productive." Serena responded with a heart emoji, keeping the mask firmly on. But inside, something had shifted. The Serena who had doubted herself, who had begged her own heart for answers, was gone. In her place stood someone sharper, colder, and ready. She wasn't going to cry in the shower or scream into her pillow. She wasn't going to beg for an explanation. No, she was going to make sure they both felt the same devastation they had handed her, only louder, messier, and permanent. She began crafting a plan. She didn't want to simply expose them. She wanted the world to see what they truly were, without needing a single word from her. They had betrayed her in silence. She would respond in silence too, but her silence would be louder than their actions ever were. With the video saved in multiple copies, she opened her editing software and started assembling a short, raw, devastating clip. The betrayal, the faces, the timestamp, everything was real. She titled it simply, R, not for revenge, but as a reminder of the one thing she had left, the right to ruin them. The quiet before the storm was almost unbearable. Serena moved through her house like a ghost, her face calm, her words measured. She smiled when Jasper spoke, laughed at his jokes, and answered Linnea's texts with cheerful emojis. No one would have suspected that behind her eyes was a boiling storm of vengeance. The video she had captured wasn't just a recording, it was her weapon, her salvation. Every frame was etched into her memory, a reminder that what she had lost could never be restored, only avenged. She edited the footage over the course of 2 days. It wasn't elaborate. She didn't need music or commentary. The rawness of what she had captured told the story better than any words could. The camera had been steady, the lighting clear. Jasper's hand on Linnea's back, Linnea's smile as she leaned into him. The kiss that broke her world. The sequence was only 6 minutes long, but that was enough. Just enough to shatter illusions, to expose what had been hidden behind perfect smiles and designer clothes. When she finished editing, she saved the file with the name R. It didn't stand for revenge. It didn't even stand for rage. It stood for revelation. She uploaded the video to a cloud drive and created a private link. But instead of sharing it right away, she waited. She wanted the timing to be perfect. She wanted it to be a moment neither of them could prepare for or recover from. She spent the next few days watching Jasper and Linnea more closely than ever. Jasper continued his charade, bringing her coffee in bed, planning dinners, offering kisses that now felt like acid on her skin. Linnea, ever polished, kept up appearances. She even suggested a family dinner to celebrate Serena and Jasper's 1-month wedding anniversary. Serena agreed, her voice light, her expression warm. Inside, she was hollow. The dinner was held at Linnea's estate. The table was decorated with gold-rimmed china and ivory candles. Jasper brought Serena's favourite, wine. Linnea wore a lavender silk dress Serena had once complimented, now tainted by association. They laughed and reminisced about the wedding. Serena played her part so well, Even she almost believed it. But she had already scheduled the upload. At exactly 7 p.m. the next day, while Jasper would be at his office and Linnea would be attending a charity gala, the video would go live. Serena didn't post it anonymously. She created an account with her name and profile picture, making it clear this wasn't a rumor or a leak. It was the truth, coming from the one who had been betrayed. The caption was short: "Just married. Caught him with my mother. This is what they did to me." And then she waited. The fallout was immediate. Within minutes of the video going live, the views exploded. Thousands of people watched in disbelief as the scandal unfolded in high definition. The betrayal was so outrageous, so intimate, that it became viral instantly. People shared it across platforms. Comments poured in. Words of support, horror, disbelief, and rage. The betrayal of a wife was one thing, but a betrayal by her own mother added a level of shock that gripped everyone who saw it. Jasper found out through a phone call from a colleague. He rushed home in a panic, his face pale, his breathing short. Serena was sitting calmly on the couch, sipping tea. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She simply looked at him as if he were already gone. Linnea found out at the gala, just before her speech. Whispers spread like wildfire. Phones lit up across the ballroom. She never made it to the podium. Her name trended within an hour. Once a symbol of grace, now the face of disgrace. Her reputation crumbled as social media tore through her past, with fury, uncovering every whisper of scandal they could find. She left the event through a side exit, hiding behind a scarf and sunglasses. But the damage was done. Jasper tried to control the narrative. He issued a short statement claiming it was a misunderstanding, but it only added fuel to the fire. No one believed him. The video spoke louder than anything he could say. His business took a hit immediately. Several high-profile clients dropped him, unwilling to be associated with the scandal. Photos of him from the wedding, smiling with Serena, began circulating again. But now they were paired with the footage of him betraying her with her own mother. Serena didn't speak publicly. She didn't give interviews. She didn't explain herself. She let the world make their own conclusions. And they did. Most people hailed her as a hero, a woman who had been humiliated but chose to fight back without a single scream. They admired the calm precision of her revenge. The betrayal had been unspeakable, but her response had been unforgettable. Behind closed doors, Serena felt a strange calm. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it had transformed into something else. Clarity. She knew who Jasper truly was. She knew what Linnea had become. There was no more confusion, no more denial. They had made their choices. And now, the world knew exactly what those choices were. She moved out of their shared home 2 days later. Left behind were only silence and shame, 2 things they would have to live with for the rest of their lives. The house was quiet when Serena returned to gather her things. The sunlight filtered through the drapes, as if even the sun was hesitant to cast its warmth on the broken pieces of what had once been a new beginning. The once cozy living room felt like a museum of betrayal. Photos of the wedding still lined the mantel, gifts still unopened, letters still full of well wishes. But all of it was meaningless now. It was a stage, and the performance was over. She moved methodically, packing only the essentials. Her clothes, her documents, a few sentimental items untouched by Jasper's presence. The rest she left behind. Every object tied to a memory with him felt tainted, poisoned by what she now knew. The red dress she wore on their honeymoon, the books they picked out together, the perfume he said reminded him of her. All of it stayed. She didn't want anything that reminded her of his touch, his lies, or her mother's betrayal. While she worked in silence, the world outside continued to buzz. The video had reached nearly 10 million views. News outlets picked up the story. Online forums dissected every second of the clip. Social media had transformed her from a private woman into a public symbol. People debated her choices, speculated on her next moves, and showered her with messages of support and curiosity. But Serena didn't care about the attention. She hadn't done it for fame or pity. She had done it because it was the only way she could reclaim her power. They had taken everything from her: her trust, her peace, her sense of home. Sharing the truth was her way of taking something back. Jasper, on the other hand, had become a ghost of himself. He had gone into hiding. After the video went viral, retreating to a friend's property outside the city. His business was collapsing. Clients no longer returned his calls. Sponsorships disappeared. He had become the man everyone whispered about with disgust. Every time he stepped outside, he risked being recognized, recorded, or worse, publicly confronted. He tried to reach Serena. Dozens of texts, missed calls, and emails poured in. His messages ranged from begging to threatening to apologizing. But she never responded. Her silence was louder than any insult. She blocked him on every platform, changed her number, and alerted her lawyer. Linnea's fall was even more dramatic. She was ousted from her charity boards, abandoned by friends who once clung to her influence. Even those who had once idolized her now wanted nothing to do with her. She became the punchline in online jokes and the subject of heated debates about narcissism, betrayal, and maternal failure. Her once lavish social life disappeared overnight. Reporters camped outside her estate. She issued a statement through her attorney calling the incident a lapse in judgment, but the public didn't forgive. In private, Linnea was unraveling. For a woman who thrived on appearances, the collapse of her reputation was unbearable. She had built her life around control, perfection, and admiration. Now, she was a pariah. Her wealth could protect her from many things, but not from being universally despised. Her daughter's silence, in particular, devastated her. She had expected anger, even fury, but she hadn't expected complete erasure. Serena, meanwhile, moved into a modest apartment downtown. It wasn't luxurious, but it was hers. The walls were bare, the furniture simple, the space quiet. And yet, for the first time in weeks, she felt safe. No secrets lingered here. No eyes watching her movements. No hidden betrayals. She started writing again. Journaling her experience helped her untangle the storm inside her. Every word poured out like a release, raw and honest. The pain was still there, sharp and fresh, but it was no longer in control. With each sentence, she reclaimed another piece of herself. One afternoon, she received a letter, handwritten with no return address. She knew the handwriting instantly. It was Linnea's. The letter was 5 pages long, filled with apologies and justifications, regrets and memories. Linnea wrote about loneliness, desperation, and how Jasper had made her feel alive again. She called it a mistake. She said she still loved Serena. She begged for forgiveness. Serena read it once, then again, and then she set it aside. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply folded it back into its envelope and placed it in a drawer, unopened again. Forgiveness wasn't something she could give. Not now. Maybe not ever. She walked outside and took a deep breath. The air felt lighter. People on the street passed her by, not knowing her story, not recognizing her face, and she was glad. She didn't want to be known for what had happened to her. She wanted to be known for what she would do next. The scandal would fade eventually. Another story would take its place. The world would move on. But she wouldn't. Forget. She didn't need to, because now she wasn't just the woman who had been betrayed. She was the woman who survived it. Months passed, and with them came the slow shedding of the identity Serena once carried like a second skin. She was no longer the wide-eyed newlywed, nor the broken woman left in the wake of betrayal. She had become someone else entirely, stronger, sharper, and more certain of herself than ever before. The storm that once consumed her had quieted into a strange sort of stillness. Life had not returned to normal, but it had found a new rhythm. Serena began channeling her pain into something greater. She enrolled in a media course at a local university, focusing on digital storytelling and public accountability. Her experience had made her realize the power of truth in the digital age. She wasn't just a victim who posted a video. She was someone who had turned her devastation into a lesson the world wouldn't forget. Her professors were impressed by her insight, her classmates drawn to her quiet intensity. No one knew what she had been through unless they connected the dots. But Serena no longer led with her trauma. It was part of her, but it didn't define her. The apartment she now called home had slowly evolved from a temporary refuge into a true sanctuary. She decorated it with soft earth tones, plants that needed her attention, and art that sparked joy. Everything in it had been chosen with intention. There were no shadows of the past in these walls. Each corner was a testament to her resilience. Jasper's world, however, had never recovered. The scandal had permanently tainted his professional image. He had resigned from his firm after weeks of backlash and growing tension from both clients and partners. Attempts to start anew were quickly shut down online by people sharing the video link wherever he appeared. No one wanted to trust a man who could betray so deeply and so shamelessly. He had moved cities, changed his look, and attempted to distance himself from the chaos. But the internet never forgets. Every time he tried to rebuild, someone would recognize his face, post a screenshot, and the past would catch up with him. He had become a cautionary tale, a digital ghost people pointed to when warning others about deception and scandal. Linnea retreated into reclusion. The once admired socialite had all but vanished from public life. Her estate grew quiet, the grand parties and elegant luncheons replaced by silence and overgrown hedges. Photos of her began surfacing less and less. Rumors swirled. Some said she had checked into a wellness center abroad. Others that she had suffered a nervous breakdown. None of it mattered to Serena anymore. Her mother's name no longer carried weight in her world. That connection had been severed. Then, one afternoon, Serena received an invitation. A small envelope, ivory with gold trim, tucked neatly into her mailbox. It was from a local women's advocacy group, requesting her presence as a guest speaker for an event on digital justice and self-empowerment. Her heart skipped as she read it. Someone had recommended her based on the video, on how she had used technology not to destroy, but to defend her truth. She hesitated at first. Speaking publicly about what happened felt like peeling away the armor she had so carefully rebuilt. But after several days of reflection, she accepted. If her pain could help even one person reclaim their strength, it would be worth it. The night of the event arrived, and Serena stood backstage, hands lightly trembling, heart pounding against her ribs. The room beyond the curtain buzzed with chatter. She could hear her name being whispered. But when she stepped onto the stage, the noise fell away. She looked out at the crowd, women of all ages, some nodding, others waiting to hear her story. She took a breath and began. She didn't describe the betrayal in graphic detail. She spoke instead of the moment she realized her silence was serving no one. She explained how she chose to shine a light on what most people would have hidden, how truth, once set free, could never be caged again. The applause when she finished was quiet at first. Then it swelled, rising like a wave. Serena smiled, not because she had won anything, but because she had survived it all and turned it into purpose. After the event, several women approached her to share their own stories. Some had suffered betrayal, others had endured different forms of injustice. Serena listened to each of them with care. For the first time in a long while, she felt connected not through pain, but through strength. As the evening faded into night, Serena walked home beneath the city lights. The air was cool, and the streets shimmered from a light rain earlier that evening. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, an email, likely another person reaching out after the event. But she didn't check it. She tucked the phone away and looked up at the sky instead. There had been a time when she thought her life was over, that the betrayal she endured would define her forever. But now she understood. It had only marked a beginning. She had lost her husband. She had lost her mother. But in their place, she had found herself. The scars remained, invisible but real. They whispered of the past, of broken promises and shattered trust. But they also reminded her that she had healed, that she had risen, and that she had walked through fire without letting it burn her spirit. Serena's story was no longer one of pain. It was one of power, and it was only just beginning.